and Eric, I think you and I have such many years of being at the gym that we used to personal train at, seeing just the classic example of the middle-aged female who post menopause, whatever it may be, is still stuck in this Jane Fonda exercise, lift, tone, burn mindset.
Oh, yeah.
I got to do more cardio. They're eating like an almond a day.
No carbs.
They have the fupa, and like they come to us like, why can I not lose weight? They're about to have a mental breakdown from life, and then now the scale is not showing what they want to show. They're eating nothing. They're working out 3 hours a day, and they feel also like a failure because they're not at the physique that they want to be at. And if they just took a second to slow down and actually start to be intentional with their strength training instead of doing the same weight a decade later for 1,000,000 reps, like, hey, if this is not getting you to where you want to go, let's start to change it up, right? What is going on? We are here, another episode of the Fueling Fire podcast with All Terrain Fitness. You are here with Coach Garry,
Coach Hailey,
and Coach Erick.
There we go. What a do. Today we got an awesome episode on the docket for you. We are going to talk about the importance of strength training, and not the typical meathead sense that most people think about, right? Like the bodybuilding, getting buff. I just want to do it to get swole. We're going to talk about it from a functional perspective for your movement, for your metabolism, especially. I'm talking to you, middle-aged ladies. And then
the people who try to avoid it the most.
Right. And the mental empowerment that tends to happen, the mental shifts that tend to happen when we do start to get strong, we create structural balance in our system, and also how much better we feel. So, yeah, what a do, fam. What are we at? How are you?
Fabulous. I feel like I wish I would have started my morning with some strength training.
Right.
You know, wake up. What about you, Bear? You lift yet today?
Oh, you know it. Can't miss those early morning lift sessions.
I'm like, it's what, like middle of the night, basically, in your brain.
Right.
No, I've been better. I've been sleeping in a little bit. You know, get up at like
4.
Yeah, like 4.
For those of you that don't know, so Coach Erick, we used to live together back when I owned a gym, and he was a personal trainer at the old gym that we used to work together at. And this freaking crazy person, I was trying to think of a title.
Come on, I'll go. You didn't want to go with the superhero? I feel like that's our usual go-to.
At this one, it's definitely crazy. At this time of the hour, is crazy person. He would get up at 3, walk his dog, eat his breakfast, drive his 30-minute commute, lift before his 5:30 a.m. client. He's a nutso, but
he's a beast.
He's the perfect one to have on to talk about strength today because he's strong as a freaking ox.
So I think one of the best places to start is just kind of defining what exactly strength training is. I think that's a big misconception that a lot of athletes have coming in. And Garry, you kind of touched on this on like, we're not talking about that this needs to be bodybuilding. This needs to be, you're trying to squat 500 pounds. It doesn't need to be a barbell. It's all of these things that I feel like when we visualize strength training, it immediately goes to like Olympic weightlifting and bodybuilders.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe just kind of shifting the conversation to what the hell are we talking about? Like, what is strength training?
Yeah. I mean, Erick is our head strength and conditioning coach. He freaking can deadlift like 600 and squat 500 and bench like 300. So Erick, why don't you tell everyone what you really feel like is really all-terrain strength training?
What do I feel like all-terrain strength training is? You know, I feel like it's just, you know, really just being capable, being capable of taking on daily activities, being capable of keeping up with your family, friends, kids. I think that's where the big, oh, I don't want to weight train because I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to do this. But, if you just look at yourself, your surroundings, your family, and be like, okay, like I'm sitting on the couch too much. Like if my kids want to go outside and play and I can't like run with them or, move some boxes around the house, I think that's where the capability comes from. You're slacking on that end, that's where strength training and, just kind of performing in your daily activities. That's what I believe we're kind of shooting for with all terrain, is just becoming more capable.
Yeah. Why do you feel like strength training provides the capabilities? Like, what is it? Why is it strength training versus other fitness modalities?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everyone knows there's so many cardio junkies out there. There's that big push with Peloton and all these other like virtual classes you can take that's just strictly cardio based, and a lot of people aren't seeing the fitness results they want or just being better off. And it's
like
really
the
because,
carryover.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, the biggest part is, with strength training, it's not only like making you more capable, it's also boosting your metabolism. You're building that lean body mass. You're building that, I would probably not the technical term, but I would say a metabolic breakthrough on your daily activity, meaning, if you increase your lean body mass by a couple kilos, you're naturally going to burn more calories at rest because you have more lean body mass to sustain.
But I see this all the time, and it's very much so. Like, we live in the mountains, right? We have a lot of mountain athletes out here. A lot of them are freaking rock stars at what they do.
A lot of endurance athletes.
A lot of endurance athletes, right? Cyclists, trail runners. But I feel like a lot of them hit ahead, like they're pushing that one modality, and they hit a point where like they've peaked in their career, and they're starting to get this later age where they're like, whoa, I need to maybe create a little bit more balance to my system, right? I used to train a cyclist who, posterior chain was just not a thing, right? And he was starting to feel it, was starting to catch up, right? So it's not only just capability to be able to go and do the things you want to do. It's right. It's for me, and the way I view strength training is very much like, can I make sure every muscle in my body is doing its job? Meaning also, do I have good structural balance, which is going to mean I have good posture. I'm going to have, again, more capability to go and do those things, but I'm also going to be in more advantageous position, right? I'm not going to be more hunched over, so on and so forth. So, strength training is not so much of, hey, let's get bulky, right? It is very much like there's a multiple facets that it's going to cover, which is increasing that metabolism. It's going to increase your bone density and ligament density, which is going to increase your durability, which makes you more all-terrain. And then it's just going to provide that structural balance so you can be upright for life, right? Like, so many people think like posture, mobility, when in reality, the thing that's going to keep you upright and out of the walker is strength, right? It's not going to be stretching into oblivion. It's going to be that strength work. So I think for me, that's really what I kind of use strength as an all-terrain human. And I think you, especially for women, I think you have kind of a different position and stance, is more also what the mentality brings to.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things I wanted to unpack just about what you were saying too, and that with strength also, it's not raw strength we're talking about. And we're talking about, the physical strength of our body. And then I'll also get into in a little bit the mental strength of our mind. But with that physical strength, it really is, thinking of, if you look at any sort of object that we have in the world, if you consider this object to be strong, it basically means that it's unbreakable. And I think that's one of the things with strength training with our bodies. It's like we're creating our body to be this unbreakable thing. No matter what we're going and doing, we're making sure that unbreakable could be injury prone, unbreakable to the mind, anything that way. And it's really interesting that you brought up endurance athletes, because just yesterday I was talking to a pro mountain biker, and it was that same thing where he's like, look, I'm like in the same position all the time, and I just feel super unstable. Like, it's not that I'm not strong. It's not that I'm not fast. It's not any of these things. He's like, but I just feel like it's those little muscles that I'm not training in sport that I need to figure out how to train outside of my activity so that it can then boost what I'm actually doing. And I think those are the small things that we kind of discount with strength training. So
Yeah,
that just reminded me of it.
Every muscle's doing their job for sure.
Right. But I think one of the biggest things that, we dive into, and I think this is especially for females, is that mental strength. And that strength training also, it doesn't need to be weightlifting. It can, like, our bodies weigh plenty, and you can use them to strength train just with yourself. And I mean, that's body weight training. You can add in a couple dumbbells there. But I think one of the biggest things that we see with our female athletes is that when they start to kind of break through that barrier of, well, I didn't think I could do that. I was really just like an elliptical bike, treadmill, runner, whatever I wanted to do, that was my comfort zone. When I actually put in the reps, like the actual physical reps, and when I started, it was really fucking hard. And I wanted to curse Coach Eric because he was like, oh my God, I can't do this. And then, 2-3 weeks down the line, there's actual metrics that you are measuring against where it's like, holy shit, I didn't think I was going to be able to do a push-up. I could barely do 3 on my knees when I first came into the program. And now I'm repping out like 8 to 10 on my toes. And I was just talking to one of my athletes, Nicole. She was like, I actually crave that feeling now. Like I crave where I run into that feeling where it feels like it sucks. And I'm like, I can't wait to feel that pain and be able to break through it. And it's something that if we weren't strength training at the beginning, that would just be something that we run from. And I don't know if you've seen that with any of our other female athletes, Eric.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I've always referenced this before, especially within the community. It's like one of the coolest things to see is everyone's progress photos from the start to the middle to the end. And you just see, a lot of our athletes, some have never strength trained before. They, are very intimidated by the gym and very intimidated by all the old myths. Like, I don't want to get bulky if I lift weights, or I don't want to, like for women, I don't want to look like a man, which everyone knows that's not going to happen.
unless you try to make it happen. Right.
Yeah. Unless you really put a lot of effort into trying to make it happen. But, like when you look at these progress photos, you really see that, when they first take their first photo, they're slumped over. You can just tell they look miserable and they do not want to take that picture. By that midpoint, their shoulders are back, they're standing tall. The last photo, they're all smiles, having fun with the photos, right? It's just so cool to see and just kind of see the empowerment they get when they physically get stronger. I mean, how many people have we had in our group that not only are they making strides in their fitness, but in their like personal and professional life, they're starting to stand up for themselves. They're speaking their mind. They're kind of taking their own life next level, with getting promotions and all these other things, just because that's, if we base it back down to like their general fitness and strength training, it's really giving them the confidence and just ability to pursue what they really want.
Yeah. When we own the gym and when we do it now, women are much more susceptible to anxiety, right? And a lot of that can be very fear-based, right? In the sense of always at the mercy of men, right? In the sense of, always have to work out for that. And there's this big shift that I see when they start to get strong, right? When they start to do this thing that they fear, there's this obstacle fear, which is strength training. They go into the fear, which might provoke some more anxiety. They get this positive response. They see the metrics that you talked about. They get more strong. They're starting to put on more muscle. And all of a sudden you start to see this person who, like you said, Eric, is more confident, right? The anxiety tends to go down because they are so much more, they feel so empowered and now what their body can do, right? They start to fall in love with what their body's capable of instead of being in this kind of almost more of a weak mindset, and not saying in the sense of like just feeling like you are at a disadvantageous position in the world when it comes to men and your sense of strength, right? This weak, physical weak mindset, not like weak mindset, right? But they kind of get into this, wow, I'm more of a strong person than I thought I was, right? I have this more capability, and that starts to shift and then play out into all these other roles and relationships that they have going on. And I think that's one of the biggest things we especially see in our female athletes. And when I used to coach female athletes in the gym, right, is when they get underneath a deadlift, they see these deadlift numbers going up, right? They start to get more confident. And it's a clear example, right? The data is super clear. The strongest females in the gym, metrically or objectively, pound for pound, they also tended to be the most confident, outspoken, outgoing females as well, which is pretty interesting.
Right. Well, I think it's interesting that you said that we really start to fall in love with our body and what our bodies can do. And I think we almost took that from one of our athletes, Regan, when we were talking to her one day, and she was like, I just love what my body can do. And I've just been able to fall in love with what it can do. And I think this is a big part of the mental game, because we have a ton of people come in and they're super, super hyper focused on the scale. That is the metric. That is the number. That is the goal. Get the scale to go down. And I think also when you just look at the psychology of goals and the psychology of going towards things, when we reframe trying to take something away, it's more of a negative response. So when we have this, like, I want to weigh less, I want to do less of these things, we develop more of a negative response towards that. When we reframe it and we look at what we're trying to gain out of something, that's when we have a positive experience. You're like, where are you going with this? And I think that's one of the things that strength training does is we're not talking about what we have to lose, what we have to take away. We do this with food. If we stop talking about what we're restricting and we start talking about what we're adding, what we're building, we're gaining freedom from food that way. That's when we get that better relationship. So strength training is really where we can harness that relationship with our body, where it's like, look what the fuck I can do. Like, I could not do this before and now I can, and I'm falling in love with it.
It's two different tunnels. It's the tunnel of, I want to hit this number, I want to lose. So with that comes this, I got to burn more. Any number higher is bad. And the sheer thought of like eating more food to put on strength, to empower your body, to get more metabolism is just not a thought, right? So now you're in this, you're in this tunnel.
Against the other thoughts.
Yeah, you're in this mental tunnel that's going to also lead you to a physical position where your metabolism is slower, right? Because you have been restricting so much intake, you've been doing so much cardio, you're not strength training, and now you're losing lean body mass as well as maybe losing some weight, which is great, right? Maybe you do get to that number, but you might have sacrificed a lot on the other side. So as soon as you go and look at a donut, you put this weight on, versus the female who goes into, hey, I know I want to try to eat to fuel my performance. I also want to eat to fuel gaining lean body mass. And if I can also maybe lose some body fat along the way, that's a good plus, but I'm not going to be hung up on this one metric of the scale, right? I'm going to allow myself to get more focus into, what do my numbers say with my lifts? I'm going to be focused on, like, what is my performance when I go and run a mile, right? Or how do I look in the mirror versus what does the scale represent? And that's a totally different mindset that's going to lead that person to a lifestyle like Regan, where she's 45, she's eating 1,100 extra calories per day and maintaining her 35-pound weight loss, eating more fuel than when she started, gotten stronger, increasing metabolism at 45, and she said, quote unquote, she's more shredded now than she's ever been in her life. And she's sending pictures of her guns in the
sending pictures of her guns, posing with her kid on vacation. And personally right now, she's going through one of the most stressful moments of her life. And she's like, Hailey, I did not binge once. Boom. I did not go to food one time. And that it's just like, I know we're talking about strength training now, but
she's empowered.
It's carryover. It is carryover. Just what Eric was saying before, where it's like not just carryover in the fitness world. Strength training carries over into so many aspects.
For sure. Well,
and then you think about it, she's also repurposed her stress. It's when, like you binge eat when you're stressed, or you do this, when you find that empowerment in the gym and your fitness and just kind of pushing your boundaries that way, you tend to gravitate towards that and going to the gym, pushing yourself a little bit harder to alleviate that stress. I know anyone on this podcast right now can testify saying, like, there's so many studies. Like, I sent you that study the other week about mentality and stress. When you physically exert yourself, it's going to decrease depression, decrease anxiety. Like it's proven, scientifically proven.
Yeah, you have that, like, you just have an outlet to fall back on, instead of like being the person who's stuck in this restrict more mindset and hung up on the scale, right? And you have a stressful moment and you do binge eat, and then you see the scale go up, and now it's a negative feedback loop where you saw the scale go up on top of all this other stress. Instead, you're not running, you're in that empowerment mode where you know what fuel can do for you, and you go to the gym and you don't worry about that one little measly objective, and you care about, hey, am I fueling for my metabolic needs, to feel good, to have more energy, to also go and be able to strength train while I'm going through the stress, so ultimately I can stay all terrain, right?
For sure. Well, and let's talk about those metabolic needs, and especially with kind of breaking away from that metric of the scale. We have one athlete who, when she came in, she has had almost an entire composition shift, but has lost, she might even weigh more now.
4 pounds.
Right?
Yeah, it was very minimal.
Yeah. So Eric, just like walk us through kind of her process coming in and what shifting her into strength training really did in that process.
Well, I mean, let's kind of start back to where like what she was doing before us, she was in that mindset of, eat less, you'll lose more. And then it kind of fell into that diet culture of taking
like 800 calories a day,
800 calories, taking diet pills, thinking she would lose all this weight. Never happened, and for her, like we had
midsection, right? She had this, a little extra spare tire, as she called it.
Yeah. She held all of her weight within her midsection. But the biggest thing for her is like, we started her a little bit higher calories, like someone's normal deficit. But we quickly realized, it's like you need to eat, so we pretty much started her in a reverse diet right away.
Yeah, gradually coming up more food.
Gradually coming up with her calories, got her up to like over 2,000 calories, really focusing on her strength training. Her total body weight didn't really change, but her physique was a night and day difference. She lost, stomach went completely flat, lost the love handles, felt super strong and confident. She went from posting her pictures in like some baggy gym shorts, baggy t-shirt to like, and then I think she put a post out not too long ago of her just like rocking her bikini, right? Just super happy. And mind you, she's a mom of
2.
She have 2 kids.
2, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So 2 kids,
full-time nurse.
Yeah.
Our nurses crush it, by the way. Shout out you nurses.
Yeah. And you know what else I love about strength training is, especially like when people get so hyper focused on the scale, when we start to break away from that scale, you start to see kind of more of the performance gains, and we really start to see, I mean, the men, they get a little weird about the scale, but it's always the females that come back to that scale. When they start to see that performance, that strength increase, they really start to realize that like that number on the scale is irrelevant. It may go up, may go down, but their performance, their physique change, like our one athlete who just had that massive physique change, she really got into strength training. She joined a gym. She really started to push herself that way. And then it gets into what I always find amazing is like, if the scale doesn't read what you want, you get crushed by it. It's like really takes the wind out of your sails. Let's say you're working out in the gym. You do great one week. The next week you miss like a rep or 2 or whatever it may be. You're never like destroyed and be like, F it, I'm giving up. Everyone always goes back like, all right, I'll be better next week. That's what I love about strength training. You're never like demoralized by it.
Our now coach, Alex, she came in and she had gone to the gym before and she'd done strength training with like dumbbells and felt confident that way. But was really kind of more into running, but was stuck in that, like, I have to work out for like an hour and a half, 2 hours when I'm in the gym type arena. And when we first started, she just had her dumbbells and she was hip thrusting like 25-pound dumbbells, 35-pound dumbbells. She caught that bug, like, holy shit. And it shifted away from weight loss. Like, she had this number in her head and I was like, Alex, I don't know where you got that number. You just like pulled that out of a hat, but she was like dead set. This is the number that I need to see on the scale. And all of a sudden that just started to morph because she started going from hip thrusting her 35-pound dumbbells to repping out barbell hip thrusts at like 325 pounds for 12 to 15 reps. And now literally every time we talk about programming, she's like, I'm ready to get fucking strong. Like, that's all I want to do. And it's just like, it reshifts your goals. It reshifts your priorities. And you start to feel it. It's a metric that actually matters. The metric on the scale, you see the number, but you don't necessarily like feel it as much. And I think, with strength training and that metric that way, it's like, you feel that empowerment. You feel it give back to you.
For sure. Well, and I think this is a good one to segue into the next topic that we really wanted to cover today is, strength is going to give you that more durability. It's going to give you that mindset shift, but it is the only proven way to increase your metabolism.
Yeah.
And one of these big things that our athletes that are shifting away from the scale, right? I think this is a perfect example of Alex is right. Understanding like, oh, okay, if I'm actually putting on more weight on this hip thrust, that means I have more muscle, probably. I have more bone density, probably. I'm stronger. So that means now I have more lean body mass, which again is going to take more fuel to maintain or grow. And now I also probably get a little bit more wiggle room for some more margaritas and pizza and barbecue, right? Whatever your vice is. But this is and Eric, I think you and I have such many years of being at the gym that we used to personal train at, seeing just the classic example of the middle-aged female who post menopause, whatever it may be, is still stuck in this Jane Fonda exercise, lift, tone, burn mindset. I got to do more cardio. They're eating like an almond a day.
No carbs.
They have the fupa, and like they come to us like, why can I not lose weight? They're about to have a mental breakdown from life, and then now the scale is not showing what they want to show. They're eating nothing. They're working out 3 hours a day, and they feel also like a failure because they're not at the physique that they want to be at. And if they just took a second to slow down and actually start to be intentional with their strength training, instead of doing the same weight a decade later for 1,000,000 reps, like, hey, if this is not getting you to where you want to go, let's start to change it up, right? Like, let's get to a real strength training program. And we find, like Regan, again, bring it back to her because she just crushed it, right? When she shifted out of this burn more, restrict more mindset that a lot of those middle-aged women get into, she put on a lot of muscle, and then she was able to maintain eating 1,100 extra more calories on a maintenance, which is significantly higher than most people can maintain. So for context, most people can maintain around like 500, 750 calories extra. But the sheer fact that she put on that much more muscle, and she was strength training, she was front squatting and back squatting and pressing and pulling and doing rows,
fucking beast all
right?
around.
And actually starting to increase the weight on those things, was she able to maintain, 400 more extra calories than most people can in a maintenance. And so, Eric, I'm sure you have a few stories floating around.
Yeah, I was actually just thinking about that. I just remember you just see those women on the ellipticals just trucking 1,000,000 miles an hour. And I mean,
before their hour-long personal training workout.
Yeah, before their personal training, go run 6 miles before they come to the gym and do all this stuff. And then, it's always comes back to, like you said, intentionally strength training. But, also like if you're strength training, that to grow muscles, to grow anything, you have to increase your calories. You have to increase it in the appropriate portions. You have to increase your protein. That conversation I've had 1,000,000 times over. And when I tell women they need to eat more, it's like, you're wrong. I'm like, well, like, how do you expect to get better eating 1,000 calories? There's going to come a point where your body is just going to be like, we have to burn through muscle mass. We have to burn through proteins too, keep you alive. 800 to 1,000 calories isn't going to fly.
Let's break that myth. I was just having this conversation of, I don't want to build muscle. I just want to tone.
Yeah.
And that's a huge one where it's like, I want to tone. And you're like,
cool.
Okay,
well, toning is,
so we're going to lose fat and build muscle.
Yeah.
Boom, you toned.
Yeah, right.
But to a little bit in the, like, I guess, nuance of it all, like you said right there, like, hey, I'm eating 1,000 calories. I'm running the treadmill before my personal training session. I'm working out 2 hours. I'm not making progress. It's like, well, where do you think you can go? Right. You're already eating underneath the RDA of calories, which is 1,100, the minimum RDA of calories, which is 1,100 calories per day, like Emma, right? 800 calories. You're already eating underneath there. So where do you think you can go? And also, why do you think if you're eating underneath your basal average, a female's basal metabolic rate is 1,400 calories, headphone down, is 1,400 calories, right? If you're eating 500 calories underneath that, and now you're doing these active calories, like, where do you think your body, like, why would your body think it'd be an advantageous adaptation to put on that lean body mass, right? And so if you can, when we do shift, we see all the time when we see these females shift, like, all right, I'm going to trust you. I'm scared as shit to eat more food, but they start to come up gradually, right? We get them at that, whatever they're eating average now, we go up little 20% jump. Then we go up a little 100 calories each week as they're starting to strength train, and the body's starting to recognize, like, oh shit, you're not starving us anymore. You're not in famine mode. Oh, wow. You're also now lifting this weight that, frequently every week. So you're telling me that I should maybe adapt to this position you're putting me in with this weight. And now we have foods, and I have some resources to do that. So then instead of what they think is going to happen, where they're going to put on more body fat, right? They start to put on, it's just shifting, right? The body's like, oh, cool. I'm just going to start partitioning this fuel for lean body mass. And there isn't any fat gain. It's in fact, they start to decrease fat because the body's like, yo, you're telling me now with feast and famine, like this is more important to put on the strength. So let's dump this emergency reserve starvation mode body fat, FUPA, and start dispersing that energy towards putting on the lean body mass. And then when they do that, like you said, Emma comes up, she's eating 2,000 calories per day. Now she's actually eating net neutral, and she's lost the midsection. She has more muscle up here. She is toned, right? She's doing,
and she can do pull-ups.
Yeah. And it's not like she's bulky, right?
No.
Yeah. And, I had this conversation the other day with one of our athletes, since we were talking about like strength training with metabolism. And, if you're in a deficit for too long, the best way I could explain it, I was like, think of like you're sitting at a bonfire, right? And you're not stoking it with wood, and it kind of just gets to those smoldering coals. I'm like, that smoldering coal phase is what your metabolism is at right now. When you're not hungry, at lower calories, nothing's changing. You could possibly start to gain weight a little bit. I was like, you have to just think about, if you want to build and be better, you have to stoke that fire. You have to start adding that wood to the fire to build it back up. You just can't stay in this like low calorie deficit, and think doing a strength training cycle here and there is going to make a difference.
For sure. Well, and to bring it into the men, right? I think a lot of men nowadays, this day, we're in this twilight skinny boy phase. They don't recognize how much better they're going to feel when they are challenging the system, right? How much more they're going to feel, because now their body's going to start eliciting more testosterone, right? And then you're going to have also more ATP, because now you have more mitochondria density, because you are building up muscle. And all of a sudden, like we see our guys start to lift and get stronger, especially even the middle-aged guys. Like if you're that guy who's like 50, 60, you feel like it's like there's no hope, or you're scared your body's going to break. It's like, no, this is going to make your body more durable. You're actually going to respond probably in a more overall better sense than the younger person. Right. And now you're going to start to feel better. You're going to have that more energy for life again. We call our program Fueling Fire, because we love when we see people, even our men, right? They start to get into this functional strength training. They start eating for their metabolic needs. All of a sudden that fire, right? That fire for life, their physicality, the clarity comes back, right? How many men do I know that are carrying that midsection? They're not lifting. And they're like, I just have this brain fog. I'm not motivated. Like I go to work in this humdrum state. It's like, dude, like get your fucking shit together, get your sleep right, get your nutrition right, start lifting again, start waking up that beast, right? The animal on the inside. Like I know, Eric, you and I lift to fucking get the animal out, right? Like the animal has to be unleashed to make the rest of life better.
Well, the other thing is, as far as the men's side, it's like you increase your lean body mass, decrease your body fat, you're going to naturally produce more testosterone. Your libido is going to go up. There's so many other benefits that come up with that. But, I heard this, I guess it was a survey they did in the US. I heard it on the radio. So I wouldn't quote this source to be like super reliable, but they were talking about like the average American, like how many days do you feel good, pain-free? There's how many days in a year? 365, right? They said on average, the number is 14. People feel out of the year, they feel good 14 days, and that all kind of goes back to, are you physically active? Are you strength training? Because like some of the biggest pains people have are lower back. They're sitting at a desk all day. They become front loaded because the adipose tissue is all centralized around their stomach, pulling them forward. They're hunched over a desk. If you strengthen up your back, strengthen up your lower back. The biggest thing I had talked about one time was the glutes, and dormant butt syndrome, which is a thing now because everybody sits all day. It's all these posterior chain muscles. Like if you strengthen those, that pain will 100% be alleviated.
Yep. Yeah.
Let's talk about I can say she's one of our favorite athletes that came in solely because she's going to be my mother-in-law. But when she came in, her, I don't know, excuse, I guess, was really like, okay, but I just can't lift. Like, I just can't strength train. Like, I can do these things, but I just can't. And Erick, freaking all-star, getting her, because she's like, my feet hurt, my knees hurt. I can't do any of these things. How did you kind of walk her out of that pain?
So yeah, that was just a lot of really building up the quads, increasing her load sensitivity in her knees, just really focusing on that. But, that was just kind of giving her a mindset shift, saying like, okay, you can do these things and you won't get hurt, And,
I think that's a big misconception, is like, well, I'm not going to lift. I'm not going to strength train because my knees, because my back, when in reality, it's kind of the flip of like,
yeah,
well, they get into the stretching mindset, right? Where she's been, case in point, she's my mother, so I have had direct exposure, but she stretched all the time for 30 years, right? Thinking stretching is how I need to alleviate this pain. Like you said, like people live their life 14 days out of the year, pain-free, right? It wasn't until we started to get her to load this tissue that she was fearful of, that she thought she was going to get injured, that all of a sudden her pain start to melt away. It's like, yeah, if stretching hasn't worked for 20 plus years, like why is it going to work all of a sudden? Like, so, came in, increased, gradually exposed her knees to stress, to load a little bit more, her feet to stress, to load a little bit more. And they started to increase their resiliency, their load tolerance. Like, oh, okay, I can take this load. It doesn't damage it. Now we can express a little bit more load, right? And so it all comes down to strength, right? It all comes down to, if you want to have, the only proven way to keep your metabolism up is strength. If you want to feel better, you want to have stronger, more durable tendons and ligaments, it's strength, right? You want to be upright and not in a freaking walker because you've been sitting all your whole life, adipose tissues collecting on the front. You're not challenging the posterior chain. You don't want to be in the walker. Again, you want to be pain-free. It comes down to strength.
You don't want to be anxious. You don't want to feel sad all the time. You want to build that mental fortitude. Strength. Boom.
Men, you want to get boners for life.
Oh my God.
Comes down to strength.
That's a huge thing. So I just turned 35, right? And that's a big thing that's happening when you're 35 is having like erectile dysfunction, which blows my mind. Like that's a thing. I still feel very young. So
meaning I still wake up with a morning salute.
Okay.
As it should be.
Okay.
You should have that till you're in your 90s.
But, I just kind of wanted to touch base on this. I posted a couple quotes from some of our athletes the other day, because I asked a bunch of our athletes, like, what does strong mean to you? Right. And it's really interesting to see like how, since they've started the program to where they're at now, like how their kind of idea of what being strong means to them. So just to read one off, from one of our athletes, she said, I was like, what does strong mean to you? She said, resiliency, mental fortitude, and having no qualms about protecting your boundaries, and I find it to be so empowering. Going back onto that empowering part, increasing that strength, increasing that mental fortitude, it goes way beyond than just benching 300 pounds.
It's almost as if the mentality reflects the physical shifts, right?
Yeah.
Like all these people, like their way to describe it is, it comes into describing a mental shift, right? Like that's the only way they know how to describe it.
My arms feel so strong.
Yeah.
Like, no. What is strong? Being able to lift this amount. Literally none of the answers were surrounded.
No.
On that.
No.
And those are the only words you have to describe, right? It's like you just not in your vernacular to describe it anywhere else. And so we'll quote Erick he has a client who he's a psychiatrist.
Yes.
Yeah. So he sent him a great little study, some research that some people have done, and just looking at what is the minimum dose of exercise to keep your mental position in the best, right? And like this looked particularly at like total general movement. It was like 15 miles. And
is that weekly?
Yeah, it was weekly, right? 50 miles. If you think about it, it's only 2 miles a day. You could walk that, right? All the above. But it's funny how what gets you in shape also helps your mental space be more clear and happier, right? As if the brain and the body, I mean, I don't know if it's a foreign concept. It's like they're connected or something. I mean,
Are you sure about that?
I don't know. Is it like the same?
Mind body connection.
Is the brain in that same
Weird.
body that you got stronger and more in shape? I don't know. It's crazy. But yeah, it is. If there's one thing that we can wrap it all together is people, when they get strong, they get to that positive empowered mindset where they're out of the burn more, restrict more. They're fueling their metabolism. They're fueling their strength. They're starting to get empowered with like, oh, I'm actually going to not improve my composition by doing what I've done in the past of burn more, restrict more. I'm actually going to do it by getting under some load. I'm also going to be more pain-free. It's the mental benefits that are really what they don't even know that they're gaining, right? It's all of us getting to this position of feeling more empowered, feeling stronger, having the capability of setting your clear boundaries, right? Like our athlete said. And it's the only way to describe it. And it's the brain telling you like, this makes me feel fucking good. So
I would say it's basically what
that was my wrap up.
being all terrain means.
Boom. All terrain human.
All terrain.
Eric, you got anything else we should wrap off before we say wrap up this strength training little spiel shtick?
How would I best put it? I would say, look at strength training as self-improvement, self-empowerment. It doesn't always have to be like, I'm going to get jacked or I want to be the strongest person in the room. I've seen it so time and time again where it's so much more than just getting stronger. It's just having that capability and being there for others, in every aspect of life.
Yeah. I'll bring it to a little bit of sciencey math numbers for a number of people out there. You only proven way, no fat burner, no HIIT, no weird crunch exercise you see on Instagram. The only proven way to increase your metabolism is to increase your lean body mass. And you do that with progressive strength training where you're not doing like a million reps at the same weight. You're starting to like, hey, I did 5 by 5. Then the next week I did 5 more pounds. And then the next week I did 5 more pounds, right? That's the true way to increase your lean body mass. And if you do that, right, every pound of lean body mass is 7 to 13 kilocalories of metabolism, right? 1 pound of adipose tissue is like 1 to 3, I believe. You can quote me on the
that's
adipose
right.
tissue one. So if you shift, ladies, if you have that little midsection, men, if you have that midsection, don't just go into, I need to eliminate foods, I need to restrict, and I need to burn, right? The workouts, you can never burn enough calories from your workouts. They can't really change your overall TDE enough to get you to burn the weight. But if you can combine that with good protein, good adequate strength training, you're going to start to lose body fat as you gain lean body mass. You're going to get this recomposition effect, right? So any of you out there, especially middle-aged athletes, if you really want to get to a position where you can keep a healthy metabolism for life, you have more metabolism, you have more wiggle room, air room to enjoy yourself more, be able to eat in our modern day where everything is large serving sizes, put on more lean body mass, especially our ladies, post menopause. You are already going through a season where your body is going to get you to dump lean body mass, right? You're lowering estrogen, right? So you need to challenge that. You need to challenge the system to try to keep that lean body mass up so you can keep that metabolism up and that bone density up and be more durable and not feel like you can only eat 1 bowl of soup and
So sad.
and gain weight. So that's my close off for why you should have it for physicality reasons.
Basically, the strength training is the biggest bang for your buck, and it's
Boom.
going to attack every single portion to do it.
Hey there, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the episode and took away some value that will amplify your life. But if you are ready to become an all-terrain human yourself, then click the link below to head over to our Facebook group to receive a copy of our all-terrain body blueprint, the 5 key pillars to a fast metabolism for life. These 5 pillars will show you how to speed up your metabolism at any age and eat for your specific metabolic needs so you can obtain your ideal composition without eliminating foods and spending all day in the gym. So if you're ready to reclaim your energy, vitality, and fire for life, then click the link below and head over to the All Terrain Fitness Mentality and Fat Loss Facebook group to pick up a copy of the All Terrain Body Blueprint, the 5 key pillars to a fast metabolism for life, and we will see you on the inside. If you want to see how we specifically implement strength training with all our All Terrain athletes, and you're listening to this, head over to our Facebook group, All Terrain Fitness Mentality and Fat Loss, where we're going to actually do a post-show wrap-up. We'll bring out the whiteboard. We're going to break down what does sustainable, functional strength training look like. Again, not like this bodybuilder splits and getting jacked. We're going to show you, hey, you normal person who has a busy life, career, family, so on and so forth. We're going to show you how you can do this in a way that's sustainable, repeatable, and you enjoy. And then you get all those mental shifts and physical shifts alongside of it. So head over there, head over that All Terrain Fitness Mentality Fat Loss group. Until next time, crew, catch you later.
See you later.
Charge the fucking mountain.